Welcome to the Atheists of Florida YouTube channel. We are pleased to offer some of the most significant speakers and profound issues of our times. If you like today's video, please hit the like button. If you have already subscribed, thank you. If not, you know what to do.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you guys for inviting me. It's a nice way of spending my Sunday. I'm in California, and as you know, California is a huge, massive landmass. I'm nowhere near Los Angeles. I am closer to San Francisco. I'm 2 hours south, right near the water in Salinas, California, which is in Monterey County. We're by Carmel. We're Steinbach country, which is really agricultural country. And all the flowers you see behind me, I see now that I'm spotlighted, boy, I am, phew, wow, look at all those, look at that close up of me. Anyway, so yeah, these are all from my garden, California poppies and all the others, freesias and so on. So, and that's broccoli, in case you guys want to know. It's just flowered broccoli. It's gone to seed. So what I'll be talking about today is really two areas of my activism. And when I say my activism, I actually have multiple people on my team, and I have multiple teams. So they are the reason why I'm able to take credit for a lot of the work they do. I lead the groups, I founded the groups, and I'm the chief person pushing people behind the scenes to help them become more active, to give them more opportunities to be active in the community. A lot of the people who've joined our groups are kind of like armchair skeptics, where they've been listening to podcasts and they're reading the books and attending the lectures, and they've been wanting to find something they could do to be more active. I was that person years and years and years ago, and then it kind of fell into my lap, the idea of doing activism as far as Wikipedia and also in the psychic world. I met up with James Randi and some other people who are very influential in my life. And I met my boyfriend, who is Mark Edward, and he was a professional psychic who was also on the board of Skeptic magazine, which was Michael Shermer's group. And so he's a professional mentalist, and he is an expert on psychic. So, you know, we kind of joined force. I'm a planner. I'm the type of person who is very organized and, you know, all that really boring stuff behind the scenes, but I was able to put on these different stings and run organizations like the Wikipedia project I'm going to talk to you quite a bit about. It's the task we have before us. Getting good science out into the world is kind of one of those tasks that's just not possible. It's just really like one of those things that can't happen. There's no way we could do this kind of stuff. I'm the kind of person who says, okay, let's get started. This is not possible, so let's get started on it and we'll see where it goes. And that's been my focus. I'm in a screen share now, and I will go itty bitty, which is great. And I'm going to talk about the two main tasks. The first task I'm going to talk about is the Wikipedia world. I picked one area of activism that we've been doing with Wikipedia, but we do lots of different things. I've picked vaccinations, which is really kind of on a lot of people's minds. And then I'm going to talk about psychics. Or am I talking about psychics first? I can't remember now. No, I'm talking about psychics first, and then I'm going to go to Wikipedia. So that's where this lecture will go. Keep in mind, there's a lot of other activities, but really I'm focusing on things that happened during the pandemic. And there's a lot of stuff we did way before that. You can look it up, or you can contact me if you want to earlier, if you're interested in things. But this is mainly stuff that happened when we were able to be in lockdown with everybody else, because, you know, we were all there with you. And I guess this is the slide I want to pick. There we go. Okay. This is the nonprofit that I run. It's called abouttimeproject.org. I will show this slide multiple times so that if you guys want to take a picture of it and go and look at our website whenever you get time, you can find out more about it. This is just kind of a name that I came up with because there's so many activities that we're involved in. They're or I'm involved in, this falls, I wanted some kind of generic name that was kind of thinking about, well, we're activists related. It's about time we started doing something. Monterey County Skeptics, which is the group that I founded out here in 2007 or something like that, a long time ago. We're still meeting in person and as well as meeting online. But now online means you can have anybody from anywhere. So our group is growing that way. All right. So I'm going to talk about Guerrilla Skeptics first, which is the wing of my group that is mainly focused on the psychic world. And when I say the psychic world, I'm not talking about the psychic world as in just anybody and everybody, because there's thousands of them out there and they keep popping up every other day. I'm really focused more on the celebrity psychics, the ones that have a TV show, that have enough notability that they could probably have a Wikipedia page themselves. That's more what we're focused on, is that area. What we're trying to do is get enough content out there that we can affect more people and educate more people. I find this world fascinating. If you like psychology, this is a great place to be, because analyzing and understanding why people think that they're in communication with the dead, that's mainly what we focus on, is the people who communicate with the dead. They're called mediums. We use the word psychic kind of as a general term, but not all psychics are mediums. But all mediums are psychic, well, claim to be psychic. And so we use the term psychic just kind of as a generic term, but I'm fully aware that not all psychics are mediums, but we really tend to concentrate on those people who are claiming to be able to communicate with the dead. We call them grief vampires. And my boyfriend, Mark Edward, came up with that term. It's a term that kind of fits with people who are trying to manipulate vulnerable people in situations where they're in a very vulnerable state. And maybe they've lived their entire life being very good at seeing the con, avoiding scams, and so on. But sometimes there's times in your life where you will enter and there will be a moment when you're so vulnerable that you throw caution to the wind and possibly can be gotten into the situation. And if it's not psychics, there's all other kinds of cons out there that are available to you. So one of the things we did at the beginning of the pandemic, and I publish under Skeptical Inquirer at skepticalinquirer.org, and all of these articles that you're going to see screenshots of and so on are all available not only on my website, which is abouttimeproject.org, but you can find them on Skeptical Inquirer. So don't spend your time reading these slides because the articles already exist elsewhere. This is just like a way of me to talk about the slide coming up. So one of the things we did at the very beginning of the pandemic, whenever we were locked down and we didn't know what was going on, it was a very frightening time for most people. We didn't even know if we would ever have a vaccine, let alone soon, is we went to all the websites of all the psychics we could find that had a little bit of notability. They had a website, Facebook page, or, YouTube account, something that had some meat in it. And we went through and we made screenshots. What we were trying to do is see if any of these psychics predicted COVID. Because, that's what, like, you would think they would notice, right? We were talking before we got onto this talk, is that, you would think they would have bought stock in Zoom and Moderna and Pfizer and all these other things, or maybe warned somebody. I could see them saying, nobody listened to me. Okay, well, nobody listened to you. There would still be record of you trying to make a fuss, right? And so we went through to see if anybody noticed it. And the way we were trying to do that is we were trying to see if they not only, if they planned around it, like saying, I'm not going to have any events for 2022, 2021, because there's going to be some huge disruption in the world and we're not going to be able to interact with each other like we did before. Economies are going to be ruined. Schools are going to be shut down. We're not going to be able to, there's some kind of contagion coming up. Something's going to happen. So I'm not going to schedule any events at that time. In fact, I'm going to get my house remodeled during that time. I'm going to, you would think that they would have felt something coming, even if they weren't specific about like exactly what it was called or exactly where it was come from or anything like that. But you would think they would not be planning their vacations during this time that we're in lockdown. What we found is none of them did, not a single one. And here's an example. This is Thomas John. He's the one I'm most known for busting. And I've gone after a lot of different psychics, but this guy's one of these people who's fairly easy to bust because he's a hot reader. In other words, he looks up information on people before he has a reading with them, and he's basically reading back your social media to you. And I've caught him so many times that it's, when somebody's cold reading, where they're just like, throwing things out there, it's not so easy to catch because it's like a general things they're saying. But with a hot reader, whenever you have the information that you see them, you in our case, we've supplied fake information and he read that. There's no other way of saying you were caught and here's the evidence. I mean, it's enough evidence you could take it to court. It's really obvious. So I do a lot with Thomas John because he's just so easy to catch. We haven't completely ruined his career yet. He's still out there. He's still doing his thing. We're making it as difficult as possible for him, but that's a completely different story. But one of the things we noticed, he got a I'm trying to think of the word for it. He got a residency at Las Vegas right before the pandemic started in January of 2019. And he was doing a psychic thing there. And one of the things we noticed is like the screenshot that he's saying that, hey, get your tickets. We're going to be going, our tickets are now on sale on Ticketmaster through June of 2019. And that's evidence to us. He's saying he didn't see it coming, right? And then here's a picture of the Caesar's Palace Ticketmaster page, and they're all cancel. So he didn't see it was coming. So he can go and try to say later, oh yeah, I did see it coming, but no, you didn't. Here's Teresa Caputo, same kind of thing. She's a Long Island medium, and she had an event scheduled for June 21st in 2019 that had to be canceled. Why, oh, why, Teresa, if you have the skills that you profess to have, why would you have a event in June of 2021? Because obviously you didn't know that. And then the psychic that we know as the alphabet guy and the biggest douche in the universe is John Edward. He goes to Australia. They love him in Australia. He goes there a couple times a year and he does a lot of promotion there, and he does a whole series of tours in Australia where he's doing his little bit there. And this is a screenshot showing that in August of 2019, not only was his shows canceled, but Australia was pretty much canceled. You couldn't come and go out of Australia. It was not, unless you were an Australian, and then you had to quarantine for weeks. But it was a big deal. So he didn't notice that coming. You would think whenever they're planning their tickets, they would say, he would have said, hey, whoever is organizing my event, I think you need to not schedule anything during this time. I have this really strange feeling that we're not going to be able to go into Australia. This is going to be a big deal. Nobody's going to be able to come and go out of there. So we're not even going to be able to meet in person. But this is like obvious, but nobody really looked into this. And we made a nice article about it, which would allow us to be able to document this for historians, that no psychic predicted COVID, not a single one. We have no evidence of anybody ever doing it. If somebody has evidence of it, I'd love to see it, but we haven't seen it. Another thing that we were able to do during the pandemic that was a really fun thing, and we were kind of alluding to this before about how much fun Zoom actually allowed us to be able to meet people that we normally wouldn't have had a lot of contact with. And this is an article written by Rob Palmer, and it's about something we did during the pandemic. I think we had, I don't know, like 1,000 hours put together by a large group of people, not a large group, but maybe 10 people or so. And what we did was we'd meet every Tuesday for two or 3 hours. And what Richard Saunders, that's the person that's at the top in the middle, it's kind of got the yellow thing around him. That's Richard Saunders. He has the podcast, The Skeptic Zone, and you should have him have a talk for you guys. He's fabulous. But anyway, Richard Saunders has been collecting psychic predictions for 21 years. And anything that has to do with Australia, as far as like the psychic is in Australia. And he looked at YouTube videos, he looked at TV shows, he looked at newspaper articles, women's magazines, everything. Oh my gosh, there's so many psychic predictions in women's magazines. I mean, psychics really manipulate women. The crime is almost 100% on women. And that is as clear as a bell to me. I kind of wonder if it's not taken seriously because the victims are almost always women. And I'm beginning to start to believe that the, people are like, well, you should know better. So whatever, it's just women. And so I'm saying that facetiously, okay, obviously. Anyway, so what we did is we met every week to look at those predictions that he had collected, and we evaluated them. And it was really difficult because some psychics are so vague. And, there's going to be an earthquake in California sometime in the next century. Well, yeah, might be having one during this talk I'm giving here. I'm very close to the fault line. But we evaluated, and he came up with a scale, and he was able to look at we had this massive spreadsheet, and it was really fascinating to put like a science to it and statistics. I'm not going to tell you the results. You can either read the article yourself, but let's say they didn't do so well. But it was an interesting look. It took him forever to do this. And it was only during the pandemic where we could sit and focus on this as a group of people who dedicated, showed up, and really looked at the evidence. And in the article, you'll see that we even debated each other about how relevant it was or how accurate it was. If some celebrity was saying that they were going to have a baby, that's obvious. It's either they had a baby during this time or they didn't have a baby during this time. But some of the predictions were like some celebrity's going to have some sort of, accident or medical thing that happened to them. That's not so easy to evaluate because we don't know everything about what's going on in a celebrity's life. And what do you consider an accident? Is it stubbing your toe? Is it a car accident? It was just very interesting thing. So that's a great Australian psychic prediction project. Okay, so going back to the world of psychics that I find myself in, I'm going to talk about something a little bit more interesting in the world of Zoom, because what happened is psychics were no longer able to meet in person. They weren't able to do their group readings. So being the type of people that they are, that are human, and they're looking for ways of continually being able to make money and get to their victims, what they did is they went to Zoom. Now, there's nothing wrong with this screen. I have just blurred all these people's names and blurred all their faces so that I could show you the image without feeling like I was intruding into these people. They are almost all women that appear at these Zoom events. So one of the things that people would do, and I think this is a Thomas John event. He's the guy who does seatbelt psychic. If you've ever heard of that, which I'm sure you haven't. But what would happen is they would, you charge you $10, $15, $20, and you could go to these Zoom events. And my team and I would go to these Zoom events. We were observing for the most part. We turn off our screens. We would change our names on the monitor, and we would just sit and watch and record. And what we would do is we would find lots of things happening. And I did a whole series of articles, and they're called Operation Lemon Meringue. My boyfriend always comes up with the names, and he came up with this as Operation Lemon Meringue. So what we did is we would watch this, we were watching it over Zoom, but we're talking to each other on my team over like Facebook Messenger. And what we found, and we already knew this is probably happening, is that he would pick people off the screen who have unusual names, usually a lot of times a hyphenated name, which shows probably the woman's maiden name. That makes it much easier to find her on social media and much easier to find like an obituary where she would be mentioned in, because we know her maiden name. And sometimes we would be sitting there on Facebook watching the Zoom events, and we would say, oh, I see he's got this person now. And we'd Google that woman really quickly or look at her social media. And then we would say things like, oh, I guess it's a dog that's going to be coming up next, because the dog, according to her social media, her dog has been really ill, and, you know, it looks like they might have to put him down. And, you know, she's very upset about that. And sure enough, the psychic, Thomas John, or some of the other psychics that would be performing with him, would say something about the dog. And we would go through, and we were doing like a live reading ourselves. Sometimes we would say, let's predict what he's going to ask next, you know, these kinds of things. And it was interesting because, again, going to the psychology, and anybody who thinks this is pure entertainment has not really gone to one of these events. This is a devastating thing to watch. It'll drain your energy. It's emotionally manipulative. And to watch these people being manipulated it's cruel, and it's very hard to watch. It's ugly. These women are definitely vulnerable. They are crying out to him. They are crying, and nobody's taking this as you know, fun and games. One of the things the women are doing is in the chat feature, and you can see the chat going on during the events, is they're yelling at him. Well, not yelling, but, you know, they're calling out to him, please, 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 I need a reading. My mom is in very bad shape, or I'm so lonely. You know, can you please help me? My father is this. And these are vulnerable situations where these people are in dire straits. They are reaching out to the psychic, and the psychic is just ignoring them, of course, because he's not doing a reading on it at the moment. And I think that the law enforcement, and I think society might take a little more of a look at this as being a crime against people, if they stop looking at it as an entertainment, which is what society does. Hollywood does it as an entertainment. Oh, look, they're just helping people. There's no helping here. This is true grief, and it's manipulation, and it's wrong. We shouldn't be allowing this, but it's happening. So these are adults. All of these people here you see on the screen are adults. And so, you know, if you've got the money and you're wanting to do it, I mean, I can throw out all the information I can to try to dissuade people on doing these kinds of things, but it's not necessarily my business to force an end to mediumship. Not like I could, but what happens is these are adults. They make their own decisions, whether good or bad. I would dissuade them from it. But what ends up happening in 2021 is the same psychic, Thomas John, decides he's going to start doing readings for children. And that was kind of crossing the line, right? So I thought, we got him. Nobody's going to allow this to go forward. It was happening in April of 2021. He announced it like December of 2020. And we were just like, no, this just can't happen. You can't be doing a spirit circle for children is between the ages of 5 and 12. That's just wrong. I mean, what? So what ends up happening is everybody who we talked about this to was just absolutely inflamed. How dare he? That's wrong. You can't do this kind of stuff. But, you know, in January of 2020, what was happening? It was an insurrection on our Capitol. And that just took the fire out of everything. Nobody wanted to talk about anything but that, which was extremely important.
Y'all like it? I like it.
Oh, we got a
like
call
it.
here. Can you find him? Okay. It's Bruce. All right. So we got that taken care of. Okay. So
I've been on fuck boys.
let's get this guy out of
I'm
here.
not gonna check. I don't take none of y'all niggas.
Yesterday's group.
What is wrong with people?
That asshole crashed our group yesterday.
Oh, did he? I mean, my goodness, really? People, do you not have a life? Anyway, just moveon.org. We'll have to have these discussions with these people anyway. Okay. 2 people entered the room, so you might want to double check those. Anyway, Should be a way of blocking him permanently. So going back to the children. So what was happening is he was going to do a spirit circle for these children, and it was $400. 8 children is what he was going to have in his little spirit circle. And what he decided he was going to do is they had to have an adult with them at all times on screen. And this was happening in April on a Monday, so school hours. And, you know, for some people, it's school hours, depending on what time zone you're in. And we tried to get this stopped. So I appealed to everybody I could think of, news agencies. We went to Zoom. We went to the organization that was taking the money, like, you know, you paid for it. Nobody would listen to us. We were having nothing but problems. We tried and tried and tried to get this stopped. I reached out to some of my friends, and you people might know this name. This is Stephen Novella, he's a Yale neurologist, okay? And, you know, that's an argument from authority, but I thought maybe it would have some weight, that if a neurologist from Yale did something and said something out loud about this, that maybe it would shame the medium. Maybe he would stop and think twice about what he was doing. No, it didn't have any effect. I know the medium saw this article because he came out with a video saying, you know, who cares? And children need psychic readings also because they're spiritual children, you know, anyway, the article from Science-Based Medicine, you can find it on Science-Based Medicine. You can also find it on my website. Basically what he's saying, he's talking about mediumship and how these are young brains, and you probably shouldn't be, you know, teaching them to be mediums and telling them that the shadows that they see and the voices that they think they hear are from dead people, right? That's probably kind of child abuse, but nobody listened to him. People were outraged, but nobody did anything. We couldn't get this darn thing canceled. I wrote an article about it. Let's please get this canceled. Isn't there anybody out there who can get this canceled? And yes, if he had been appearing in person somewhere, like if he was actually in a venue somewhere, if he was in Tampa, downtown Tampa, and he was going to bring in a spirit circle and it was going to be a readings for children, we could probably get that stopped. Somehow we could probably get this stopped. But because it's happening over Zoom, remember I was saying, you know, there's benefits to Zoom. There's also problems with Zoom, and that's that he doesn't have a jurisdiction at this point. We don't even know where he's broadcasting from. He moves around all over the place. He's got homes in several different places. So we didn't really know, how do you shut that down? So what I decided at almost the very last minute was, if we couldn't shut it down, we would have to attend. So what we did is we put together a sting, and I'm going to show you the link to it. My boyfriend came up with the name of the sting. It's Operation Onion Ring. And we attended. And not only did we attend, but we broke in. We were able to infiltrate. We sting him. He got a sting so bad, 2 of them. And I have the video and everything to prove it. I have all the screenshots to prove it. It's eviscerating. It hasn't stopped him. And the story, Operation Onion Ring, is actually not that well known. It happened in April of 2021. And I'm hoping that someday somebody will do a movie on it, a documentary on it. I've preserved everything. If a reporter wants to do an article on it, I preserved everything so they can do that. It's a great story. But anyway, I'll let you read about it later. We're hoping, the story's a little long in the written form. I've done a few videos on it, but we've kind of kept it that way because what I want to do is my hope is that when these children grow up and they're at an age where they can learn about what happened to them, that maybe they will find the story and they will understand what happened to them. That's my idea. So, you know, I can hope we have a future. So one of the things I've done recently is I have added a channel. I started a YouTube channel about 6 weeks ago. I wanted to do a longer format discussion of mediumship because I have a long history of doing evaluating psychic mediums and their readings, and I've done a lot of reading on it, and I have some great friends who are experts on this. Not only my own boyfriend here, Mark Edward, who is an expert on it and who's written the book on it. He's written a book called Psychic Blues, Conflictions of a Psychic Medium. And Confessions of a Conflicted Medium. Boy, I better get that right. Anyway, so I have a lot of people to advise me. I have great mentors in this world. And what I think is missing is the voice of somebody breaking these down and explaining mediumship in detail, because it's not as simple as the skeptic community seems to think it is. There's a whole lot of psychology in it. There's a lot of wordplay, clever editing, missing the obvious things that should be there that aren't there, remembering hits, forgetting the misses. And I think it's a disservice to the skeptic community when we are trying to say, oh, it's just a bunch of nonsense, don't pay any attention to it. It's just people calling out a bunch of letters, and then somebody hits on it, and it's just people looking you up on Facebook or whatever, and it's just, don't pay any attention to it. It's not real. And then the believer or the person who's had a personal reading from one of these mediums says, it was nothing like that at all. He didn't call out any letters. He did tell me things that there's no way anybody else could know. My mother came through. It was very emotional. There was no editing. I don't have Facebook. They're making these legitimate concerns that you've got the psychics. The skeptics on one hand saying this is what's going on and poo-pooing everything. And then you got the believer or the person who's had a reading saying that is not, and there's this giant gap in between, and they're not communicating well. And I don't think we're educating people well, because it's not as easy as what the skeptics say. And it's much more complicated, and there's much more going on than the believers think is going on behind the scenes. And so I started this channel. It's called Psychics Explained. I'm on YouTube, had it for about 6 weeks. Please follow me. Please subscribe. I really appreciate it. And I've had a lot of success. We're supposed to have 4,000 hours of viewing to be able, within a year, to be able to hit the standard of being able to be monetized, be able to make money at it. Not that I think I'm actually going to make any money at it, but it's like a guide. I like numbers. So I'm supposed to hit 4,000 hours viewed within a year. And I've been on 6 weeks or so, and we're at like 3,500 views. So obviously people are finding this interesting, and they like that long format. I believe that there are people out there who are actually watching long videos and enjoying it. If you want to watch TikTok, there's also videos there that people are putting up that are debunking psychics. But I think this is more like learning how to a new language. It's not simple. There's a lot going on, a lot of nuances of it. So this is like what my videos look like. I've had to learn how to make these thumbnails that are like lots of bright colors and like, wow, busted. It's just kind of not my thing, but I'm learning how to do this myself. Okay, so I'm going to change hats again. Okay, so totally change topics. We're not talking psychics anymore. Psychics, that's a whole different world. Some people know me as the psychic person. That's all they know me for, is being this person who does psychics investigations. But let me tell you, there's a whole nother world that knows me only for this project, the Guerrilla Skeptics on Wikipedia project. We call ourselves GSoW. I'm sorry, too many acronyms. GSoW, Guerrilla Skeptics on Wikipedia. This is a project that started in about 2010. We didn't know it would be a thing, so we didn't really pay attention to the starting dates. The idea is to get, and other people had had proposed this is a good idea. Let's have people go on to Wikipedia that are skeptics, and they can start improving or repairing or writing Wikipedia pages about science. And a man named Tim Farley, who was in Atlanta, I think he's still in the Atlanta, Georgia area, he was talking about this, and I was on a cruise left out of Fort Lauderdale, and he was talking about this on a James Randi Educational Foundation cruise. Really a good idea. People should start getting involved in editing Wikipedia, because this is a source that people are using for their information. It has a lot of influence. Back in 2010, he's talking about it. And I thought, I'd like to start doing something. This is before I got involved in doing the psychic stuff. And so I said, I'd really like to do something. Maybe I can learn how to edit Wikipedia. And I just got in there, and I had no training, and they don't really train you. And I got to a point where I was just about banned because I was making so many mistakes. It was awful. So over time, and I'm going to shorten this story, I created a group that we now meet on Facebook. We have a private group. It's a secret group. It's called the Secret Cabal. I invite other people to join, but they have to go through training, and training takes about 4 months. And it is kind of involved. Again, it's like learning a language. I find it interesting. I've got at least 100 people who find it interesting. They've gone through the training with us. And anybody who wants to join, all you people out there, if you think you have no experience coding, well, neither did I, and I'm running the group. If you think that you do not have to be a scientist, that's nice if you do. We teach you everything you need to know, and you can become one of our GSoW editors. And one of the things that we've done that's unique to most other projects is we've created our own training, because Wikipedia does not have training. The other thing we do is we have completely ignored the boundaries of language, and we work in all languages possible. 45% of the work that we create is in languages outside of English. And I think that pseudoscience and science education should be done in languages outside of English. And Wikipedia doesn't make that necessarily easy. There's no real blending of the languages. This is something that's unique to our project. So we've been working on these pages. We're concerned on science, scientific skepticism, claims of the paranormal, people of science. That's our focus, is that area of science. Now, I decided, for this talk today, I'm going to focus on something that's just kind of one little niche in that world. And the niche is vaccinations. So you may know this person. He's obviously got a lot of fame in the last few weeks, as he's announced that he's going to be running for his presidency. He's going to be a Democrat. This is Robert Kennedy Jr. So Robert Kennedy Jr. is known as being an anti-vaxxer, and from a long history of anti-vaccination, not just the COVID, but measles, mumps, rubella, all of that kind of thing. And so this is his organization. It's called Children's Health Defense. And the name seems innocuous. It doesn't sound like, we're all for children and health and defense of children. I mean, we can agree on that. But this organization has existed for a long time. But until our project, GSoW, got involved, it didn't have a Wikipedia page. So we wrote its Wikipedia page, and we wrote it in English, and I believe we've also translated it into French. And what you're looking at right now, this is a screenshot from his own website. And this pops up whenever you are, when you go to his website. This is like one of those pop-up things, and it's like, get involved and give us your address and stuff like that. And we'll send you a zillion different emails trying to get money out of you. So this is the Wikipedia page that we created. And I don't want you to read it right now. I know you're reading it. Stop reading it. You can read it later. It's on Wikipedia, Children's Health Defense. What I want to point out, this is an example of a Wikipedia page written by our group. We never write stubs. We improve stubs, but we never will create a stub. We only create full format, long format Wikipedia pages, and we try to write them in a way that makes you want to read from the beginning to the end. That's our goal, is to tell the story, and we follow all the rules of Wikipedia. In fact, we are beyond following the rules of Wikipedia, because sometimes we're suspect by other Wikipedia editors for, why are you doing this? What is this going on here? but we do follow all the rules. This Wikipedia page is pretty typical because you can see that there's a lot of citations in the lead, which is normally not a place you put citations, but on a very contentious Wikipedia page, like maybe homeopathy or Mormonism or something like that, you put citations in the lead because you need to be able to say right off the bat, this is the evidence and we have it right here. So you can see it says that the Children's Health Defense is an activist group. It's a nonprofit. It's mainly known for its anti-vaccine propaganda. It's been identified as one of the main sources of misinformation on vaccinations. Arguments against vaccination are contradicted by overwhelming scientific consensus about the safety and effectiveness of vaccines. That lead is very carefully worded the way it is, because we know most people only read the lead of an article and then they go on and do their, whatever else they're going to do that day. So we want to make sure that the best information is in that lead. And also we know things like, when you're doing Google knowledge, like if you're starting to type what is Children's Health Defense, usually on your right-hand side of your screen, if you're using Google, the first sentence or two is going to come up in that on that knowledge bar, and it's going to be the first sentence of Wikipedia. Usually that's where it's going. So we want to be able to inform people who even aren't going to Wikipedia. They're just getting the information from just a quick Google search. And I believe also if you have Alexa or you have Siri or something in your household, if you ask it, hey, what is, Children's Health Defense, it's going to read to you probably the first sentence of the Wikipedia page. So it's extremely important that the first part of the Wikipedia page is strongly written as of what it is. And there's a lot more that goes into it than that, but we take this very seriously. Another thing you'll see, you can kind of tell it's a Wikipedia page written by our project, is there's going to be a sidebar, and that's that little person that's right there, and it says alternative medicine. We tend to put that on there because we want to make sure that a person who's just coming here and glancing at the Wikipedia page goes, oh, alt med, I'm out of here. Okay, I found what I want to know. It is not a reputable organization I want to be giving my money to if I believe that vaccinations are, supported by science and so on. So now I'm going to go back to this other screen that I showed you a minute ago, and there's something on here you probably didn't notice before, and it's this little thing that says censorship is hiding us from you. And absolutely. So on his website, and this is a screenshot from his website that I've created, you'll see, again, don't sit here and read it all in detail, but he's talking about, this is up on the website, about how Wikipedia refuses to correct their inaccurate entries despite our numerous attempts to provide them with the truth. And that Google and Wikipedia are not being fair. We're not playing fair. And the question I get the most whenever I'm giving a talk on Wikipedia is, how do we handle all that? Do we get people constantly trying to erase our edits? Are we always under attack? And so on. And my answer is always the same. No, our edits are almost never removed. We're almost never attacked. There's almost nothing a person can do to combat what's on a Wikipedia page because it's the truth. We back it up with citations, and Wikipedia, even if the editors don't say, hey, I'm a skeptic, they are a skeptic because we're all dedicated to this idea that everything has to have a citation, and the citation has to be from a reliable source. We can't just use we can't just take his opinion. We can't take what's on his website. We have to have documented evidence, and it's very strong evidence. It has to be. I don't want to get into explaining this all right at the moment, but let me just say, we rarely get our edits removed. If our edits are removed, it's removed for seconds or minutes, and then it's put back on. And it's not my team that's doing all this work. General Wikipedia editors are the people behind this. They're actually they're doing a fabulous job out there. People will never know who these editors are. Generally on Wikipedia, who's doing this enormous amount of work to keep the vandalism off. There's also robots, they call them bots, that are removing vandalism in seconds. You will never even see it again. So yes, Wikipedia started out at this like a wild, wild west, But over time, they've come up with tools that are automated, rules that are followed, and a world of culture, an environment with their own language. You know, Wikipedia editors talk to each other in this weird code kind of stuff that my team breaks down and explains to you. And it's really heartwarming, because I think that this is one of those establishments that is not recognized for the valuable things that they do for society. And Wikipedia is a wonderful place. And I'm not paid by Wikipedia. We receive no funding from Wikipedia whatsoever. I'm just telling you out loud that this is a wonderful resource, and not just for this. So let's talk about views, because it's very important to me. Is the work we're doing having an impact? How do you measure it? And the only way we have of measuring our Wikipedia work is by looking at how many times a Wikipedia page is viewed. Now, we can't know if how long a person stays on a Wikipedia page. Are they reading it in depth, or are they just glancing at it and they're off in a minute or two or a second or two? All we know is that there are ways of measuring how many times a page is accessed. We also don't know if it's the same individual coming over and over and over to the page. We don't know, but at least it's static in the way that we were able to say, well, maybe not static, but we're able to, this is our tool. We're using it to evaluate how many times the page is viewed. So this is Children's Health Defense, and we wrote this page in English in March 10th, 2019. And these are the Wikipedia page views. This is how many times the page has been accessed. Again, like I said, I don't know if they stay on the page a long time, or if they're off in a second, or if it's the same person coming over and over. But you can see these spikes. And obviously, Children's Health Defense has been getting quite a few views. One day back in April of 2022, there was over 5,500 views to the Wikipedia page. So this is Wikipedia is a really great source for knowing how popular it is at that moment. So like, you could use a Google Trends, that'll help you. But Wikipedia is another really great resource of, is this in the news? Is this important to people? Are people Googling this? Are they going directly to Wikipedia? Or maybe they're Googling it and then they're clicking on the links, which takes them to Wikipedia. But we can see that last little spike up there in April, which isn't as big a spike for Children's Health Defense, we think is completely because RFK Jr. announced that he's going to be running for president. So this Wikipedia page is even more important than it was before if we're going to see this man start to get a lot of publicity. It's really important that we have this Wikipedia page out here. And we can tell and I just created this just seconds before I got onto the screen with you, because we keep track of how many views are on these Wikipedia pages we've done work on. And this Wikipedia page, since we created it in English, has 444,991 views. So that's, to me, a success. We're creating content that is getting out there. We know that children are probably plagiarizing this. That's fine. We know kids are going to plagiarize it. We know adults are going to plagiarize Wikipedia. So we want to make sure that that if they're going to plagiarize our Wikipedia, they're getting the best format they can, the best information we can. And so we've done that in this page. And I'm going to show you one more, because just for time's sake that we've done. You might have heard of this group, America's Frontline Doctors. This is another Wikipedia page that we wrote, and I think it's also in French. And it was these are those people who were very involved in the insurrection that happened at the Capitol and so on. And you guys, I don't need to explain it to you. And if I do need to explain it to you, just go over to Wikipedia after I finish my talk and you can talk about it. So we created the America's Frontline Doctors Wikipedia page. It did not exist before we wrote it. And since we wrote it, it's got 440,323 views. So this is, again, another way of saying there's some kind of, we're having an effect. My team has been written a program, and I mentioned this earlier to somebody else, a man whose name is Kyle Polish. He's a data scientist, and he specializes in artificial intelligence. but he has a podcast called Data Skeptic. And one of the things he did is he wrote a program for us, which allows us to be able to look at those Wikipedia views and track just specific pages. So what I do is I put these specific pages into this thing we call Stat Badger. And I'm following the page views of just the Wikipedia pages that we have created, full cloth, whole cloth, or we've taken from a stub, like a couple citations, and we've completely rewritten the page. And we've done this, on a lot of Wikipedia pages. And so we're able to keep track of how we're doing. And this is important to us to be able to have some kind of number to look at so you can evaluate, are you doing well? How are you doing? And so in just the vaccine world, this is where we're at. I just did this a few minutes ago before I got onto the call with you guys. We've created 113 Wikipedia pages that we tagged vaccine. So that could be people who are proponents or opponents of vaccinations, or, actual Wikipedia pages about the science. So we've already got 6,500,000 page views on those 113 pages. And you can see that that's an important subject that really needs to have really good information out there, the best science possible. But I know some of you people I can hear you now, are saying, how many Wikipedia pages have you actually done? And how are you guys doing as a whole? So for that person out there who's asking that question mentally to me right now, here's where we are. We're at 2,113 pages, and we're at 136 million page views. So that's a lot of people we're informing, and we're trying to make sure they have the best information possible out there. And we're working on all kinds of pages. I mean, we work on pages concerning UFOs, we work on cryptozoology, people of science. We write pages that are about science. I have a team of people who write about birds. I like to write about botanical gardens or museums that I've visited. We have people who write about all kinds of things. Now, this number that you're seeing, 136 million, is only pages we have really, really, really written or completely rewritten. We make tons of edits every day to Wikipedia pages that are just improving things, changing things, making sure we take vandalism off of. We couldn't even possibly track those pages. There's no way those could be put in our Stat Badger, because we would have no way of knowing how much of what we said, how much we wrote, had an impact. So I'm getting to the end of my presentation. In this presentation, I'm going to start with a few more things that I mentioned about activism and so on. So at the beginning of the pandemic, and there was the insurrection, and well, even before that, when we elected the person before Joe Biden became our president, there was a huge outcry and a support of science. Go science! And what ended up happening is there was this movement called March for Science. And people came out in droves, and we wore our nerd shirts, and we had really cool signs that were very math related and protect Mother Earth, and climate change is, real, and we don't have a second Earth to go to. And it was great. We came out into the streets, and we made a lot of noise, and we did a lot of things. This is me. The picture you see behind me is in Monterey, which is where we had our March for Science. And I absolutely adore it, because there's this kid back there. He says, "We speak for the woodpeckers." I love this picture. And yay, science! And the little kid with his socks are falling down. But what I said is, right after this March for Science, I went out on tour. I was all over the United States. I was in New Zealand, I went to Australia, and I went to the UK, and I gave talks to various skeptic groups around there. And I wasn't my message was not what they wanted to hear. My message was, and it still is that unless you have some sort of organized activism with leadership, with goals, with measurable goals, then you're just throwing your voice out in the wind. It's nice that we're all supporting math and science and all that. Yeah, yay, science. But if you don't back it up and force change, we're never going to get serious change in the world. And that was my point, is that we marched for science, and then the next year they did another march for science, which was almost nothing, and then nothing happened. We never made any sizable change because the groups that were organizing this had no strong leadership, they had no strong goals, they had no measurable change. And, you know, I'm sure there's a lot of people who are inspired by it and have done amazing things. That's wonderful. But what I was telling people to do is join and do something that has a lot more relevancy, something that is something we can measure, something we can do. And I said, join my activism, join my skeptics group for Wikipedia. Please come and edit for us. Yes, it's a chore. It takes 4 months to train, at least 4 months to train. Yes, you're going to be sitting behind a computer screen. Yes, you're going to have to learn a whole bunch of weird things and learn almost a new language of how to edit. It is really odd. And yes, you have to be on Facebook to be in my secret cabal. It is a chore. But to a certain demographic out there who are just arguing with people on the internet, they're arguing with trolls. They're arguing with people who are not listening to what they're saying. You can throw out all the links you want on social media, and you're just wasting your time, getting your blood pressure going, and you're not having an impact. People tell me all the time, oh, well, there's a couple people who are probably watching. Well, you know what? Your actions would be much better used if you joined a project like my Guerrilla Skepticism, a Wikipedia project, where you're actually making a difference. You know, that was my message to people, and people don't want to hear it because they want to stay home and they want to yell at the computer and they want to yell at the internet and they want to yell at trolls. So frustrating, because even within our own community, we were still having problems with people who were fighting me on this. And if you don't want to join the Guerrilla Skepticism on Wikipedia project, that's fine, but get off the trolling, start working on some of the other things that can be done. Write articles, host podcasts, write letters to the newspapers and write to journalists and do research and give money to organizations that are trying to do a good job. Support them, share their content on social media. And I have this article here for anybody who's really is thinking about it, is that this is Daniel Loxton. He did this is from 2007. He did this thing, What Do I Do Next? 105 Practical Ways of Promoting Science and Advancing Skepticism. You can Google this yourself, or you can look at my website and find it. But it's a little dated because it's 2007. I think it uses the word faxing people, if you guys remember fax machines, and some of those other things, and it doesn't take into account, Zoom and some of the internet sites and things like that. But I think it stands up. It's a really good way of finding out some information about how you can actually be involved, not just in my project and the Wikipedia project, but in a lot of different areas. I mean, leaving your and there's so many things you can think about, like, giving books to prisons and to jails and to that are teach critical thinking, sponsoring scholarships for students to be able to go to conferences and to attend things that are like this. There's sponsoring talks like the one I'm giving you right now, and so on. There's a lot of things you can do. So if you want to check that out, that might be really helpful. And I'm going to just mention this really quickly because this is another one of those pies I have my fingers in. There's a great organization out there of people who are like-minded experts on facilitated communication. If you don't know what facilitated communication is, look them up on Wikipedia, because guess what? They have a fantastic Wikipedia page. And all of the people outside of the Wikipedia page, like facilitated communication has a wonderful Wikipedia page, but the way GSoW thinks is not just that one page, but when you click on those hyperlinks, they should go to another well-written Wikipedia page. And you click on that hyperlink. It's like leaving breadcrumbs. I think of it as the Goldilocks effect, that the people who are named on the Wikipedia page should have well-written Wikipedia pages. And then we got to get these into languages all over the place, different languages besides English. So this is the website, facilitatedcommunication.org. It's a wonderful site to be able to get information if you don't know about it, but it's one of those pseudosciences that's very harmful. And we thought we had debunked it 30, 40 years ago. And the skeptic community and the science community said, high five, it's gone. We debunked it. We show how it's done. And they walked away. And it's been going on ever since. It never went away. It's still there. It's still harming people. It is still a pseudoscience, and we're devoted to trying to make this stop. It's being paid for with public funds. My God, it's being taught in universities. Makes me crazy. So I'm going to put this up here too. This is a very good friend of mine, Wendy Hughes. She's been, a friend of mine for since I started in the skeptic community back in 2009. And Wendy, during the pandemic, she fell for a romance scam. And she's a longtime skeptic. And as I say to you guys, with the psychics, that when you are in a vulnerable moment, if the right scam comes past you and you don't recognize it as a scam, you can fall for it. We can't all be knowledgeable about everything. And there are scams out there that are very manipulative and they're very sneaky. And Wendy fell for one. It was like a 3-week thing she did, but she fell for it. And when I finally found out about it happening to her, I asked her, I said, Wendy, why don't you write something up for Skeptical Inquirer? You're a brave woman. You are willing to put your face on it. And that's one of the problems these things perpetuate, is because, especially because they're women, it's happening to. Not necessarily the romance scams. I know there's plenty of men that are involved in this, but women feel vulnerable. They feel like they're going to be attacked. They don't want people, making comments about how they look, and it's just ugly out there, you guys. It's wonderful and it's ugly. But Wendy wrote up this Skeptical Inquirer article, and she, pushes her vulnerability and says, look, I fell for this. Don't do it. And so she wrote this wonderful article about the romance scam and how she fell for it. And I'm just so proud of her for doing that. And I think if more people stepped up and said, I fell for it, you shouldn't, and here's how I fell for it and how I got out of it. And I think it's wonderful. So if you look at that, and then this is another thing I'm going to show really quick. This is a book. It is not written by my friend Lauren Pankras, but who's also a fellow at CFI. But what Lauren Pankras has done is he's had a book translated from German about scams, modern swindlers, and it's a wonderful book, lots of illustrations. And the reason I'm bringing that up in the context of this lecture I'm giving you is because Lawrence Pankras has taken a historical look. I love history, you guys. He's taken a historical look at how the scams that we're seeing now, remember the Nigerian prince scam and so on. These are old. They just renamed them and they've changed the modus operandi and everything. It's not the same exactly, but it's enough to give you an idea that these things have been going on for a long time, probably since mankind figured out there's a way of having an edge over another person in humankind. And this book, I think it was written in the 1800s for Germans who are going to be traveling to, I think, Minnesota, and to beware of certain scams. Anyway, this is a great book. If you get a chance, you might want to check it out. If you're interested in scams and the history of scams and how, as I say, what was old is now new again. What we're seeing is nothing new, and we're never going to get rid of it. There's just no way of doing it. All we can do is try to do our best to hold the people who are doing this accountable, which is not happening right now. A couple people are getting held accountable, but everybody else is just swept under the rug. And, that's what's happening. So try to make sure that you don't fall for it, and the people in your community don't fall for it, and your family members don't fall for it. My idea is the best way of keeping yourself from having these kind of things fall on you and you fall for these scams is to keep a strong body of people around you who are knowledgeable about things, that are looking out for you. They don't have to be, geniuses or anything, but people who are going to tell you to your face, I don't think that guy that you're writing to is the guy that you think he is. How can we know? and talking to them kindly and not making them feel like an idiot. You don't want them circling the cognitive dissonance wagons as you yell at them. You need to find a way of approaching people nicely and having conversations with them. And I'm a strong believer in that, that we have to understand that these are humans. They have fallen for something, or they're about to fall for something. And it's best to have a conversation with them that keeps the conversation open. That we can have. You want to become the person that people come to whenever they have questions about things that are odd. You don't want to attack them. You want to understand, why are they falling for this? What is it that's going on? And let's learn about this together. I have a couple workshops I do on this if you're interested, that I do just for groups to learn how to be better communicators with people, but that's a completely different subject. As I end this, I just want to post that we have SciCon coming up in October of this year. If you get a chance to go to this is phenomenal. It'll be held in Vegas again at the Flamingo. I've been going for years, and I'm also been a speaker for many years. It is the most fun in the world to be in rooms with like-minded people. You can't get to Vegas, but if you find yourself in Australia or New Zealand or Manchester, England, or in Germany, there's other conferences out there. But if you can get yourself to a conference, these are skeptic conferences. That's mainly where I focus my energies, the skeptic world. But there's atheist conference and humanist conference and so on. If you can get to one of those, go. You have to just find a way of making yourself go, because the community is so strong, and you may find yourself finding friendships that you have no idea that how valuable they are to you in this world. And we tend to be kind of lone wolves, us kind of people. And it's a good idea if we start bonding together and getting to know each other. I find it really important. And if you personally can't go, then work with Center for Inquiry or myself. We're hoping to start doing more lectures in person, helping groups do this. We also do things called Skeptic Camp, and 2024, I'm going to really start focusing on groups doing their own Skeptic Camp, which is like a one-day lecture. Your own group forms a community together, and what you're doing is you're trying to get people to, oops, I should have stopped sharing. Now you can see my Facebook page. We're trying to get people together to do one-day conferences within your community, and your speakers are the people within your community, and that's our Skeptic Camp. That's something we do. If you can't even, another thing you could do is to help sponsor people within your community to be able to go to these events, because maybe you don't have the time, maybe you don't have the funds, but maybe you guys can find one or two people within your community and help them attend, either with finances or, somehow help them be able to get themselves there as a representative of your group. I think that kind of thing is, community is so important. We really have to look out for each other. We have to know each other. So I'm glad that you guys have invited me to join, join you today and do a talk with you. I'm hoping that we're going to be able to have a longer relationship. You guys will reach out to me if you have questions, and, subscribe to my channel, or ask me questions, or all the things that, we do in this kind of world. And that concludes my talk.
Well, thank you so much, Susan. I see Jim Peterson's already got
He jumped on it.
He jumped on it. We are discussing, it's funny you brought that up about Skeptic Camp. We had one a few years ago. I think we had about 90 people who attended it. It went really well. We haven't been able to do it since then, but we were talking about having one in the fall. Trying to get that together, because we couldn't get Darwin Day to go to this year. So we were talking about that. And so I will be in touch with you about that.
I sure hope so. I've done a whole bunch of them in Monterey County, and it's so much fun, you guys.
Yes, we had a great time. Mm-hmm. I'm wondering if it's okay if I share your email in the chat.
Yeah.
Okay.
Reach out to me on Facebook. I'm as public as you can be.
Okay.
Please, yeah, whatever.
About timeboard@gmail.com is what I put in chat.
Yeah, you can do that, or you can, and like I said, friend me on Facebook. Send me messages. I don't care.
Okay. The one thing that I'm really concerned about right now is, Jim, I'll get to you in just a minute, I promise. Is they have this AI thing which can clone a voice in 3 seconds.
Mhm.
And I'm really worried about people getting calls from people that, are representing something inappropriate or representing a family member, and getting all caught up in that. And I'm wondering if you've looked at any of that. And of course, the deep fakes.
Well, yeah. Well, AI is going to be with us,
Yes.
right? We have no choice. We cannot go back. I mean, we
No.
can't be Luddites about it and say, well, we can ban it. No, you can't ban it. It's there. And it's going to improve and improve and improve and improve.
Yes.
And smarter people than I are going to have to deal with it, because I think we should just always be wary. I think teaching people how to look at things like, phishing emails that people get, the
Yeah.
phishing, not FISH, but with a
Yeah.
P.
Well,
I talk to people about, like, look at the URL. Is it coming from a site that like Amazon.com, or is it coming from some mix of letters and numbers and so always be wary. And I think that there's best practices we can do. Deep fakes, voice things, yeah, of course. But I don't have the answer. I think it's going to happen, and we're just going to have to deal with it, and somebody's going to come up with best practices, I guess, for it.
okay. Jim Peterson. You're muted, Jim.
There we are. Sorry. I greatly enjoyed your talk, of course, learned a great deal, and I was also highly stimulated to think about the fact that we live here in a retirement community, about 200 people or so, most of whom, because we're next to a university, most of whom are professors and educators and so on. So you have a pretty good crowd. And we're thinking that maybe we should start, and we have in fact started a computer club, and which we were going to help people because we have expertise in this matter, dealing with their problems with their computers and phones and tablets, that sort of thing. But among the other projects was one in which we wanted to get people to come together to talk about communications they've had, scams, basically. So if people had doubts about any sort of internet communications that they were experiencing, because there's lots of them out there, especially for older people. And because we're exceptionally vulnerable, I think. And so we wanted to see if we could get some psychologists or other people together. However, you have suggested that we attend some of the skeptic conventions and other other types of information which we could make available. So what is my question?
I was going to say, Jim.
Let me mention really quick that the elderly people are very vulnerable for this.
Yes.
But one of the biggest people who fall for the scams, especially the romance scams, are actually the young people. It's not known, but especially I'm sure the pandemic didn't help anywhere, where they're feeling very vulnerable, very alone, they were very they don't even have the way of, a lot of these people haven't even had relationships before, so they're very vulnerable. They don't understand how this all works, and so that a lot of them were falling for they don't have that experience, they don't have that background, that whereas somebody who's in their 70s and 80s would go, oh yeah, well, that's a bunch of BS, So technologically, yeah, the older people may fall for it because things change so fast unless you keep up with it.
So we'll see how that works out. But thank you very much for helping out.
Thank you, Jim. Andrea? You need to unmute, Andrea. Andrea? Okay, I'm gonna skip Andrea and go to Linda. Linda, if you could unmute. We'll come back to Andrea. Can you hear me?
I could
Yeah,
I could try to say what it is I think she's trying to say using my psychic powers, but
Linda, can you hear me? You're muted. Okay, we'll skip Linda and go to Hamed. No, nobody's hearing me.
maybe are they all muted and they can't unmute?
Oh, maybe.
Have we made it so they can't unmute?
I might have done that when I was trying to,
Get rid of that troll.
yeah. Let's see.
Yeah, Andrea
Yes, I
says she
did it.
can't unmute.
Okay. All
You'll have to
right,
fix that.
Andrea, I just fixed it. You should be able to unmute yourself now.
Can you hear me now?
Yes. we can.
Hello, Andrea. We hear you fine.
You can't see me though. That's still not working.
Oh,
Anyways, I just want to make a comment. I'm a retired speech and language pathologist, and I remember about 35 years ago, we had a workshop on facilitated communication. They showed us how to do it, and we got credit for it toward continuing education.
Mhm.
And it's kind of like a Ouija board. Is the way I would.
It is.
compare
It is a lot like a Ouija board. Yes.
Yeah, and I could never get it. I guess I just wasn't smart enough.
That's not what I would say if you didn't get it.
Yeah, they were using it with autistic kids,
Mhm.
and there were some therapists that swore by it, but
Yep.
I didn't have much experience with autistic kids, so I didn't have an opportunity to use it. Darn. But anyway, I just wanted to make that comment.
Yeah,
about
it was a big deal back in the 80s and 90s, and it went underground when it got exposed by James Randi and others. Some really interesting shows on, I think, Frontline and Nightline or something like that. They exposed it, and it just went underground, and they changed their name, and they still exist, and they're in the universities teaching it. It is the clever Hans effect, or ideomotor effect, and the Ouija board effect. It's what it is, and these children are absolutely being. It's abusive to these children who are not able to communicate the way we communicate, like, just having a conversation. They communicate, but they're saying, get off me, leave me alone, pushing people away, biting them, anything they can to keep from having to be subjected to this. But after a while, with perseverance, the parents, mostly it's the parents, will get these kids in submission, and it's cruel. It's absolutely cruel, because they're just holding their hand, and they're just moving their hand, and the kids finally learn that they can get through it if they just let it happen to them. It's really awful. Yeah, it's still out there.
Well, ASHA, the American Speech and Hearing Association, does not accept that as a form of
Absolutely.
good
And that's on the
speech.
Wikipedia page. Every time we find out there's a new organization, and sometimes we write to the organization and say, what is your stance on this? And then when they issue something on their website, we'd say, can you please put that on your website? Asha and some of the others, we turn around and we put it on the Wikipedia page. So it's like, these organizations do not embrace this, so that was purposeful.
thank you, Andrea. Anything else?
Nope.
Okay, thanks. Linda,
Hi, okay, oh, you disabled my video.
no.
Hello?
No, I didn't.
Well, I can't see you anyway. All I'm
Cannot
seeing is,
start
I'm
your
just
video
seeing me.
Because the host disabled it.
My video is disabled.
Really? I don't.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll fix that too. Sorry.
Well,
Yeah,
I can't see anything anyway, just me. That's all that's on the screen right
Yeah.
at the moment.
yeah, that part about John F. Kennedy Jr. or no, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Like I know the psychics is important, but that one is really truly dangerous.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. We
Because-
lived through a
because-
pandemic, and we know all about how dangerous vaccine
Yeah,
hesitancy is.
Yeah,
It
he
can
used
kill us.
Yeah, he used to be good because he used to be about the environment, but he's
Yeah.
gone crazy in the last couple of decades. But anyways, what I was wondering was, does anybody know members in the Democratic Party? Because yeah, the anti-vaxxers are right-wingers mostly, but when you have someone from the Democratic Party, it's gonna have credibility towards the left-wing people.
Mhm. Oh,
And-
the left can be just as anti-vaccine as the right. It's
Yeah,
incredible,
yeah. So I was
absolutely
wondering-
incredible.
Yeah, so-
Run for your school board.
Oh yeah.
Get involved in politics.
Yeah.
I'm telling you. I'm not, but I'm busy doing some other stuff. But yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. No,
But-
they know. I think people know this guy's a nut.
Yeah,
But the media
but-
knows. They're coming right out and saying this guy's
Yeah.
an anti-vaxxer. And
Oh,
so,
good,
so it's
because-
known. It's
Hmm.
just that there's a lot of people on the fringe. They're going to use him as. He's
Yeah,
going to
but-
raise off of it.
But I was wondering if the Democratic Party itself can kick him out.
Well,
Uh,
possibly. I think
Yeah.
that I think it's likely that he's, who knows? I don't know, but yeah. And maybe we shouldn't kick him out. Maybe we should let him out there and let him be eviscerated, like happened to Oz, Dr. Oz. Remember Dr. Oz?
Oh
The-
yeah,
the skeptic community. We have been telling people about Dr. Oz for decades. We've been like, this guy's, we've really been hammering him, and society is like, yeah, whatever. And then finally he runs for office, and then you'd see these news stories and people are like, oh wait, this guy's nuts. Oh my God, this guy's promoting all sorts of nonsense. You're like, where have you been? We've been screaming at the top of our lungs for 20 years about this guy, and nobody took it seriously until finally he gets into the people's eyes. Now he's got his membership. I think he's losing all sorts of his accreditation in different
Yeah.
places. He's like a laughing stock beyond a laughing stock right now.
Oh,
Maybe
no.
that's what has to happen to Robert Kennedy Jr.
yeah. But
I don't know.
Can't this guy be somewhat criminally responsible
No.
for?
what? He's freedom of
For-
speech. Freedom
Yeah.
of speech, man.
Yeah, but can he not have his nonprofit status taken away?
Not if he's following the rules. There's profit rules if he's following them.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah, because that
I know it's
alone
frustrating,
sometimes-
isn't it?
Yeah, sometimes that alone, like that, oh, the government's allowing it to be a nonprofit, that gives a certain credibility to it.
Yeah, of course.
It's like, can you change the law that says that nonprofits cannot put out medical misinformation?
Run for office. I do.
I can't, I'm in Canada.
We could all move to Canada. Can you adopt us? You guys got some crazies over there too. We wrote a Wikipedia page about one of your Queen of Canada. Remember her?
The Queen of Canada?
Yeah, the QAnon woman who's driving around in RVs.
Oh, Tamara, I think her name is.
No, Romana or something like that. She's
Yeah.
cray cray, and she's telling people she's trying to get people shot. We wrote her
Oh,
Wikipedia
Jesus.
page also. So we've
Oh,
got
don't
your
even-
backs, Canada. You got your
Ah.
share of crazies up
Yeah,
there too.
I think the government did arrest her or something.
Nope.
Like, no, they didn't.
They've taken her in a
Oh,
couple times
Linda.
for psychiatric evaluations.
Yeah.
Linda,
I
is there
see.
anything else you want to talk about? We need. we got
Not
lots
really.
to
I was just wondering, if there could be legally things done to these people that would
Nothing.
shut them down, or even a
Well,
protest. I don't know.
Only if they're selling something or whatever.
I see
Thank
it.
you,
and-
Linda.
Yeah. Okay. Where's my mute? Ah,
Ahmed, you can unmute yourself now. Thank you.
Yeah, all right. Thank you very much, Judy. Hi, Susan. I just want to say that it was great, hearing the story during that period of the lockdown and the pandemic, and how productive being that period. Many of us, we went through that period in different ways. Some of us had to survive during that period. Some of us have been productive and very creative as well.
Mhm.
And we can't deny that period actually brought those people close to us closer.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And also those people who are far away even closer. There's always a silver lining from that thing that happened to our lives. Yeah, and by the way, atheism is all about being skeptic about everything, and how it's just like a tool just to get, peel away layers in a way to reach the truth. And I just love that. And yeah, my question is, what you mentioned that you translate those Wikipedia pages into different languages. And what language do you use you to translate to? And is Arabic one of them?
We don't have any Arabic editors at the moment. We have had an Arabic editor. It would be wonderful if we did. We translate them into whatever languages the person wants to translate them into. So they're native speakers. We don't have anybody doing, we don't use Google Translate or anything like that. So all the pages that we translate, and we don't only translate English into those languages. Sometimes we take pages that are well written in other languages and translate them into English, or vice versa. So that we're trying not to be, of course we're focused on English because the majority of the people here are English speakers in my group, but not all of them are. So we translate all over. The thing is that you have to be an editor to translate, because you have to be able to do the code. You have to be able to interact with editors in that language. So if it's Arabic, you're interacting with Arabic editors. And so you have to learn how the code is worked. It's the same in English, but there's always nuances. So it's not just taking a page and translating it. I mean, we could do that in Google Translate if we just took an English page and translated it. No, there's a whole process of codes, putting the page out there, interacting with the other editors, being able to handle like people who are doing vandalism and all that stuff. So when somebody decides they want to join our group that is a person who can edit in a different language, they go through the whole training process in English, because that's the only language I speak well enough to be able to train in. And then they move off into their language. And we're in all kinds of languages. We got French, Hungarian, Swedish, Portuguese, Spanish. I mean, there's there are tons, but we don't have enough in those language in like Arabic or anything like that. No, and it's just we don't have it. We have no Chinese editors, no Japanese editors, no Indonesian, nothing. I don't know why, but we don't.
It's all right. Maybe in time we'll get it.
People volunteer and then they say they're going to, and I'm like, okay, I'm waiting. We're just going to keep moving on until you can catch up with us when you finally get there. But yeah, we'll be around for a while because we're not going to finish this project anytime soon.
All right, that is awesome. Well, yeah, for me that's it. And well, again, bravo on the efforts.
Thank you, Ahmed.
Thank you,
Michael.
Yeah, you mentioned that you put citations over everything, but I mean that's another problem too. Is that a lot of people out there will use the Onion or a blog just as much.
We can't use it.
I know, but I'm talking about just out there in the public.
Oh yeah, in the public they think that's reliable, but
so yeah, they'll see a blog is just as reliable as a scientific journal. So I was just wondering, like, what are your criteria for the sources that you use?
We don't use scientific journals either. You can't use those. Those are primary sources. So these are rules of Wikipedia. We have to use secondary sources. So secondary sources that are notable. And so, because if you're using a scientific journal, then that means you're interpreting the journal. You're interpreting the information. And Wikipedia editors are not allowed to have their own opinion on the article. So we have to wait until notable scientists or experts of some sort publish something that is a critique or a talking about the scientific journal. And we take as many sources as we possibly can. So if a great example is the Havana syndrome. I don't know if you guys know about that. That was happening in Cuba and this whole thing, this nonsense. So or the UFO tapes that are coming out in your guys's Marco Rubio over there, yes. Who got this UFO thing going on. So what happens is that we can't use websites, we can't use blogs, we can't use any of that kind of thing. But if like JAMA, the Journal for American Medical Association, JAMA came out with this thing saying Havana syndrome is probably real. And we're like, that like they're using microwaves or something, I don't know, some kind of nonsense, but they were saying it like that. And it wasn't a really well vetted article because the scientists they use or the people they use as experts, they weren't really credible. But the thing is they published this. And so we were having a lot of trouble with the Havana syndrome Wikipedia page, which is one we were really heavily involved in because JAMA had come up with it. But the thing is then experts finally came in and they started writing about it. And they were talking about how this is probably mass hysteria, mass sociogenic illness, and so on. And finally, we're able to change the Wikipedia page to less relying on a site like JAMA, which makes errors too, into something that is a lot more reasonable. If you look at the Havana syndrome Wikipedia page, you'll see what I mean. But the sources that are used, we can't use, like I said, we can't use scientific journals. That's a primary source. We can only use articles that are citations that are based on analyzing the primary source. And it's a little more confusing. I don't think you really want me to go into too much in depth, but let me just say, you can check on a lot of citations and you can see that those citations are should be reputable themselves. So we use newspapers and things like that, which sometimes get it wrong. But like, I wrote the Wikipedia page for UFO sighting there at Gulf Breeze. That was fascinating. You guys, if you've been down to Gulf Breeze, I want to go there and check it out. But man, that was interesting. I just followed newspaper accounts. And then I was able to use that when I wrote the Wikipedia page for Gulf Breeze UFO incident, I think it's called. And it's a little more complicated than I'm saying, but let me just say there are rules, and we can't use like Breitbart. We can't use what's coming out of Answers in Genesis or anything like that. You know, it's a lot more strict than that.
I know you said you take on facilitate communication. You also take on a therapeutic touch.
Therapeutic touch, absolutely. One of my very, very, very good friends is Linda Rosa. Her daughter is the one who was in, I think it was JAMA, in 5th grade when she made a science project with therapeutic touch. So yeah, we're willing to look at anything that any of my editors wants to look at. Linda Rosa has brought a lot of those pages to our attention, like holding therapy and some of the other things that's going on in the nurses industry. They're offering continuing educational credits to nurses, and it's just pseudoscience. So I personally am interested in facilitated communication and a rapid prompting method and all the things that come off of it. But there are people who are more interested in actually trying to do activism. Linda Rosa has been doing a lot of things with FICA requests and so on. We're just a little tiny clog, all of us skeptics in the world. And things like therapeutic touch is just, it's one of probably 1,000 pseudosciences that we need somebody dedicated to actually do activism with it. I don't have the time. I'm already on other things and I'm spread thin, but we need those.
Very scary because like acupuncture, therapeutic touch, I mean, all that stuff people are relying on.
Reiki.
I work for the state, and they will actually fund you to go to like a Christian Science doctor. Oh yeah, and it's ridiculous.
We're screwed.
Yes,
I'm not kidding. We're really screwed. The agencies that should be protecting us aren't, right? So it's up to us as citizens, and we're not even united ourselves within the skeptic community. And that's why I'm encouraging more people to go to conferences, especially the bigger conferences, so you can feel that you're part of the larger group and maybe you can find like-minded people. But yeah, if you are interested in therapeutic touch, oh my gosh, meet up with Linda Rosa. You'll find her on Facebook. She's a wonderful human being. And oh man, it's a mess.
I need to, I'm sorry to cut you off, Michael, but we're getting really close to the end time and we have 2 more.
End times. The end times are coming? Are we going to be raptured?
Yes.
Wait, let me sell my car.
Andrea will be the last question. So James Young, you know what I'm going to say.
I have two questions.
Okay.
One you can answer quickly. I may have missed if you the answer to this if you had presented it, but how many Wikipedia editors are currently actively working?
For me or for the in general?
No, for you on your staff doing what you are.
About 100, but that are active, probably 20.
Okay, active is 20, and of those 20, how many hours do you think they're putting in per month? Maybe
2.
Yes, some
2.
idea. 2 hours, maybe.
Maybe when I'm working on a Wikipedia page, I could, like the Gulf Breeze Wikipedia page, I turned that out in 8 hours. But I know what I'm doing. So it could take somebody, 10, 15 hours to write a Wikipedia page if they write one a year.
Okay, and now the second question with respect to skepticism.
Mhm.
My question, I know that supposedly critical thinking is supposedly taught in public schools, but I'm skeptical myself
Yeah, I am
about
too.
the extent of what that instruction is and the quality of it. Is there anything being done to try to get skepticism as a part of the public education curriculum in public schools in any of the states?
Nothing organized. There is a TIES program that's there in Florida. You guys check out TIES.
We had them, they
yeah.
were our last speakers.
Well, we wrote their Wikipedia page as well as Bertha's Wikipedia page. And there's also the National Science Educational Foundation, which is in Eugenie Scott used to run. Those are trying to teach teachers how to be better teachers in evolution and climate change and so on. So that might be the only organization that is kind of like doing something in mass in an organized way. But we see a lot of hit and miss. People will approach me and say, I teach a class on scientific skepticism, but they're teaching it at undergrad level. So in the schools, elementary schools, high schools, middle schools, I know of no organization and nobody doing anything. Each place has so many strict rules, the jurisdictions and so on. It's hard to do that. I mean, look at your own state in Florida. My gosh, they're getting, look what you guys are doing in the schools over there. The rest of the United States is going, oh my God, don't let it spread here. What's going on?
Well, it seems like that one of the biggest scourges that humanity faces is the active process of dumbing down children.
It's easier to control them.
Yes.
From the moment of birth right on into their adult age. And it's no wonder they eagerly embrace QAnon and other conspiracy theories and alternative medicine, all kinds of nonsense. It just seems like that we're getting dumber and dumber. I mean, if you're an observer, you think, my God, is there any limit to the amount of ignorance, gullibility that we see going on around us? And how can we stop this if there's nothing in the public education system to prepare children for a world in which they are targets of being dumbed down?
Well, I'll just answer you, James. We don't have a solution and there's nothing organized going on. We just have each other. And I think that actually I've talked to a lot of students and I have great hope. I think we've got some of the best out there. Oh my gosh, the lives we've put these kids through the pandemic has just been so hard on their mental health. And a lot of them are amazing people. I've met lots of them through my activism. And I think to myself, we're going to be okay. I'm an optimist. People call me a Pollyanna, but I think it's going to be all right. We're never going to get rid of this, but I have great optimism. And I think that the people who are falling for QAnon and stuff like that are frankly older. I don't think we're getting the kids, but everything needs to be done now. and I can only start on the little part of the world that I've adopted as my side of the sidewalk. I'm trying to keep clean, and I think everybody else should pick a side of the sidewalk in front of their house and keep it clean, and eventually we'll get there. But
We
I don't have a good answer for you, James.
I found your numbers, the Wikipedia numbers, to be extraordinarily impressive, by the way.
Thank you.
And I've enjoyed
I'm impressed.
your presentation immensely. I wish we actually had more time. I know we've run out of time.
Well, you
But,
can talk to me. I'm all over the place. Find me somewhere if you have more questions.
Her email's
Yeah.
in the chat, James.
I got
Yeah.
I got the email already,
Okay.
and thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, James. Hopefully
I'll
I'll get
let
out to
Andrea
Florida.
take her turn.
I will tell you that last year, Atheists of Florida paid for or contributed to the education system in Pinellas County for a teacher who wanted to do skeptical thinking training for her students, and we paid almost $800, I think.
And
Get
and
them all the
that is
equipment they
amazing.
need.
See,
Get
that is helping. That is a big help.
And then we also distributed about 100 science kits to elementary school students. So we're trying to help.
Yeah, that is exactly what I'm talking about, is find some niche you can take on and just do it. Don't worry about solving the entire problem everywhere, because you can't. Pick your street corner and fix that, and that's what you do. And keep working on that, and somebody else can work on theirs.
Yeah. Andrea, you can.
Thank you very much for this presentation. It was quite informative. I have a short question. Periodically, I get a request pop up to donate to Wikipedia, and I have donated a few dollars here and there. Is this legit?
Yes. Absolutely. Go ahead and keep donating to Wikipedia. They do a great service of keeping ads off of there. They keep their servers turned on. They have very few paid employees, and it just keeps them strong. I'm sure they have a lot of lawyers and things that they have to pay for, administrators. I don't think there's any heavy costs where nobody's getting rich off of it. Trust me. But yes, if you want to donate to Wikipedia, go ahead and donate to Wikipedia. It's a great organization. You can also donate to me. I mean, I'm a nonprofit too. I won't say no to money. That's what people keep telling me, Susan, don't say no to money. And I say, oh my gosh, I feel awful about asking for money, but if people want to give me money, I'll take it. We have a nonprofit. You can find it on our website if you're interested, but yeah.
Thanks, Andrea. Okay, I'm going to take you out of the spotlight.
Yay!
And I know we're running into your time, but there was a question from Rick O'Keefe of what does the guerrilla training consist?
Of the Wikipedia training or the psychic training?
It says guerrilla training.
Well, the psychic training, there is no training. I just have a very small group of people that are on a Facebook group that's privately, it's Operation Grief Vampire, that's hidden. You can't find it. It's a very small group. If I'm doing a sting, I will recruit for that sting, specifically in the area that I'm having a psychic, like we did Connecticut up in that area. We did the LA area. We've done different things, but I'm not doing any stings at the moment. Everything's been going over the internet. Right now, I'm just trying to take the content we've already done and put it into my YouTube channel. But as far as the Wikipedia project,
that's what he wants.
Okay, the Wikipedia. Okay, so what that is, you have to be on Facebook. You have to send me a Facebook request, a friend request, and a private message, because I communicate mostly through Facebook Messenger. And you tell me your email. You tell me what language you want to be editing in. You tell me where you heard of me, where have you heard of this project? And you have to open a Wikipedia account. So you open an account, you come up with a username, and you give it to me. And then I send you a pre-training, which takes 2 hours. And it's like a little tiny bit of Wikipedia training you're going to go through. I give it to you and you do it. And at the end of that 2 hours, you say to yourself, this is definitely not what I want to do. This is way too tedious, or these people are just weird or whatever. I don't want to do it anymore. No harm, no foul. Or sometimes they say, oh my gosh, this is the best thing since sliced bread. I have to do this. And then they join. And then I'm your trainer. We do all our training over the internet, mostly through Facebook Messenger. You're given a huge training program over Google Documents, and you go through each lesson. When everything's done for you, you say, all right, like your first thing you have to do is you have to take a picture that's uploaded to Wikimedia Commons, and you have to put it on this Wikipedia page. And then we give you instructions on how to do that. You learn how to do it. Then we say, okay, now you have to go in and find a mistake on Wikipedia, fix it, and you fix it. And then we make you do this. The steps are easier and they get more difficult. It's not hard. It's just, you have to be motivated to do this. It's like taking a cooking class or whatever. People drop out all the time. I get people who their lives get busy, they get sick, somebody in the family gets sick, and they just drop out and they feel very disappointed in themselves, but it's very common. So people start probably, 1 out of every 3 people finish, or maybe 1 out of every 4 people finish, and there's no harm. It's just the way the nature of volunteerism. And then they finally finish my project, and then they become an editor, and then they go on and they do whatever they want to do as far as Wikipedia editing. They stay in the secret cabal. You're just there, and you advise people who are writing Wikipedia pages, and you read what they're working on, and you say, I don't understand what you're saying. This page makes no sense to me. Then how about you say it this way? How about you, proofread and so on? Or they work on their own projects. You can pick whatever you want. We have people who work on vaccines. We have people who work on UFOs. We have people who work on Bigfoot. We have people who work on people of science. There's so much nonsense in the science world. We want those Wikipedia pages to be the best they can be, especially those science pages. My gosh, mostly they're in good shape. But we like to have people go through them who are experts and say, this isn't good. This is a problem. This isn't saying it right. This is not correct. And then I'll say, okay, well, you need to join my team so you can help fix it, because I can't make my editors work on a page just because it needs to be edited, because there's thousands of pages that need to be edited. They have to care about the topic. I can't just assign it. So people get involved and they do it. It's a lot, but it's fun.
Thanks, Susan. Linda, I said that Andrea was going to be the last questioner. If you have a very quick question, we'll let you go, but we'll let our speaker go.
Yeah,
Okay,
just a quickie, actually. Could people in Canada learn your wiki stuff?
I have people all over the world. Of course you can.
Oh, okay.
They're all over
right.
the world. Approach me on
Okay.
Facebook.
Okay, just put the thing in the comments on the Tampa and I'll see. Are you willing to also talk to Canadian groups through Zoom, like for Humanist
Absolutely.
Night? Okay.
Absolutely.
All right, I'll
Invite
leave
me.
you alone now.
Thanks,
I'm
Linda.
very public. As much as I can get my message out, the more people I can educate, I can hopefully help other people. Very public.
Okay, well, thank you so much. I will tell you all that our next meeting is on April 30th. It's going to be at 3 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, because the guy's in Canada, and he's going to be talking about the toxic legacy of biblical patriarchy. So he's talked with us at least 3 times before, and maybe 4. He's very good, and we really enjoy him. And he's an ex-evangelical minister who has seen the light. So thank you so much, Susan. I think this was very productive, and I'm probably going to contact you.
Okay, well, I hope to hear more from you. It's very great to meet you. Hopefully
Yes.
we'll meet in person. Please send me a link to the video whenever you got it out.
I will absolutely do that. I'll let you know when it's up and give you a chance to make any comments you want to make about it.
Okay, nice to meet you all.
Maybe get me to change.
Hope
any-
to see you guys again soon.
All right, thanks so much. Bye, everybody.
If you are pleased with our programs, please tap the like button and then subscribe to our channel. Don't forget the bell so you don't miss any notices of new material. We usually post new content every week. See our created playlists to discover events thus far this year, or to see a list of topics and speakers from our rapidly growing and diverse collection since 1992.